He arrived late with a cake shaped like a sports car, and I felt small. My name is Tess Marlowe, and I have learned how to be quiet. I learned it during depositions, during the slow months of freelance work, and during the nights when my son, Jamie, asked if his dad was coming. The answer changed, the silence did not. Today was Jamie's 6th birthday, a backyard afternoon party with paper crowns and a rented bubble machine, the kind of celebration that costs more time than money. I had baked cupcakes at dawn and tied blue ribbons around the chairs. My sister strung flags between the maple and the porch light. We were ready. Dylan swung through the gate like a headliner hitting a stage. He wore a white polo, that easy grin he saves for rooms that don't know him, and a watch I had not seen during our marriage. On his arm was a woman in an apricot dress and espadrilles, whose hair caught the sun and kept it. He held the car cake high and loud, as if volume could erase absence. "Daddy's here, champ," he called, and Jamie ran to him with both hands out. The scene landed on me like a weight. Guests turned, the murmurs shifted, and I felt the old humiliation flare. During the divorce Dylan had been a magician, making bills disappear and promises appear. He could turn a missed pickup into a misunderstanding, an empty account into bad luck, a lie into a new story by dinner. I had stopped trying to correct the record. Records never clap back, they only collect. He set the cake on the table and kissed Jamie's head. "Wait till you see your real present," he told him, loud enough for neighbors to hear. He gestured toward the driveway, where a hired driver idled beside a glossy rented go-kart no 6-year-old should touch without a helmet or 3 adults. Through the swing of reactions, I saw Jamie's eyes shine, and somewhere under my ribs something delicate and long-suffering twisted. "Hi, Tess," said the woman in apricot, with a smile like a business card. "I'm Riley." Her bracelets chimed. She was kind enough to be dangerous. "Glad you made it," I said. I kept my voice level. I passed the biodegradable plates and offered a knife for the cake. The knife was dull. It took effort to cut the car into pieces that would not collapse. Dylan made a show of steadying the cake with his palm. A smear of frosting landed on his wrist. He licked it while telling a story about promotions, about networking, about a podcast I had never heard. His volume pressed on the afternoon like a thumb on a bruise. Jamie tugged my sleeve. "Can I ride it now?" he whispered, pointing toward the driveway. I crouched so we were eye to eye. The fear in me was practical, not theatrical. I saw the downhill curve of our street, the shallow ditch, the cars that cut corners. "After cake," I said. "Then we'll talk rules." Dylan cleared his throat. "Actually, Tess, it's safe," he said. I handled it. It's his big day. He looked to the circle for approval, and it came. He always knew how to collect applause, even from strangers who would never help at midnight. I stood, wiped my hands, and smiled for the parents who had stayed. I have learned it takes patience to hold a boundary in public. A boundary is a quiet thing, easy to miss, easy to step on, until it holds. "After cake," I repeated, gentle as a seatbelt click. In my pocket was another quiet thing that would hold. I had folded it until the fold lines knew their work. Paper is soft, but paper decides lives. We sang, and Jamie's cheeks glowed as if candles had learned to burn inside him. I watched Dylan lean into the chorus like the star of his own comeback. Maybe he believed he was. Maybe the stories we tell ourselves are the only air some people breathe. My breath was steady. At the edge of the crowd, the first spark of something steady lit within me. It was not anger. It was the certainty that the day would end with the truth on the table. After cake, the social choreography accelerated, and I felt the old tilt return. Dylan began giving a tour of his month. He talked about a new condo with a view of the river, like views raise children and mortgages co-parent. "The building has a concierge," he said, "kids love it, all the candy in a crystal bowl. He laughed, and Riley laughed with him, head tilted, bracelets ringing like applause. I placed slices on plates and kept count of hands. I handed out napkins and reminders, which is what mothers do when rooms forget the cost of thrill. Jamie tugged again. Now. His breath smelled like strawberries and sugar. I checked the time, checked the angle of the sun, checked the faces of the other parents to make sure no one would turn this into a referendum on my caution. The rented go-kart shone like a dare. Dylan waved at the driver, who lifted his chin back, bored and expensive. 15 minutes, I said to Jamie. Helmet, closed shoes, and only laps in the cul-de-sac with me walking beside. I turned to Dylan. You can walk with us. He lifted his palms. I've got a call, babe, he said, tapping his ear like a secret agent. I remembered that gesture from 100 small dodges. 10 of those had cost me a shift, 2 had cost me rent. You're good, he added, as if delegating the unglamorous part preserved both his myth and his manicure. He stepped away under the maple, phone raised, posture sleek with importance. I laced Jamie's helmet and looked into his eyes. We'll go slow, I said. This is about fun, not fast. He nodded, bouncing on his toes. I loved him in a way that made every room both brighter and more dangerous. We walked to the cul-de-sac and traced circles like a ritual. He learned steering with his tongue pressed to one side of his mouth, that thinking face I would know in any crowd. I jogged beside him, one hand near the wheel, another near his shoulder, both ready. Behind us came a statement disguised as a laugh, the kind of sound that invites witnesses. Tess gets nervous, Dylan said to Riley. It's her brand. The words were light, but I heard every pound of them. There are cheap humiliations that feel luxurious to the one delivering them. The audience was polite. The afternoon had entered the hour when shadows lengthen and patience thins. After 15 minutes, I braked with a palm on the wheel. Time. Jamie pouted, then breathed, then nodded. He has learned the rhythm of my rules, the way I phrase limits as doors we can open later. He dismounted and hugged me around the waist. That small trust reached places no applause ever will. By the gift table, Dylan had gathered an audience again. He presented a second gift, this one a drone with a camera. For father-son videos, he said, which sounded like a plan to film a promise rather than keep one. He offered a wink to the circle and to Jamie. We'll make content. We have a screen time schedule, I said. We can talk about weekends. I kept my tone even, like a teacher who knows the lesson will stick because the facts do not blink. A few parents drifted, uncomfortable in the way conflict makes practical people want to stack chairs faster. Dylan's smile stiffened. I'm trying to give the kids something memorable, he said. You always block. It's what you do. He looked at me the way he looked at unflattering invoices, like a problem he could misplace. The isolation felt familiar, but it no longer felt final. People had witnessed my caution and called it control for years. The story never fit my body, but I wore it until the seams tore. I thought of the winter nights when Jamie and I ate grilled cheese by the heater because the gas bill came due. I thought of Dylan's mistransfers, each one wrapped in a joke about cash flow. I thought of the nights I lay awake teaching myself the statutes, learning the language of custody and best interest, a language made of stone and safety. The vow did not arrive like thunder. It arrived like breath, simple and essential. I would not argue with noise. I would not ask a room to choose between spectacle and steady care. I would bring the truth into daylight, fold by fold. I placed my hand on the pocket holding the papers, and for the first time that day, I felt taller than the scene. The papers had not appeared by magic, they had been born of winter work. In January, after Dylan missed 2 weekends in a row and turned the third into a cameo, I called a number scribbled on a card from a playground bulletin board. Family law, first consult free, it said, with a small drawing of a kite. The lawyer was named Amira Patel, and she wore her hair in a braid that looked like a promise kept. Her office overlooked a laundromat, and during our first meeting I watched someone fold sheets while I unfolded 6 years. He is intermittent, I said. He arrives big, he leaves small. He pays like a weather vane. He texts like a teenager, screenshots like a spy, and shows up like a parade. I pushed a folder across the desk. Inside were my notes, his messages, bank records, the calendar I used to track weekends and missed pickups. Each square told a story measured in bedtime questions and car seat buckles. Amira read without hurry. She hummed under her breath the way surgeons hum when they stitch. You are the consistent parent, she said at last. Courts notice consistency. They also notice performance, but not the kind he sells. She tapped the page where I had documented medical appointments, school conferences, and the day I spent 3 hours at urgent care when Jamie's cough sharpened. You have the spine of the thing. I learned terms that month. Primary residential parent. Joint legal custody with specified decision-making authority. Material change in circumstances. I learned to separate narrative from evidence, hurt from history. When I wept, it came without noise, the way rain moves across a flat lake. Amira slid the box of tissues closer and kept reading. We built a plan. It was patient, not punitive. Quiet wins are the ones that last, Amira said, and I believed her because she did not try to make me feel brave. She understood that bravery happens in the kitchen at 11 p.m., labeling lunch containers, answering school forms, setting alarms for early buses. Bravery is a steady verb. In March, Dylan bought a motorcycle he could not afford. In April, he posted an unboxing video of a luxury speaker system he tagged as a gifted collab, which looked suspiciously like a purchase. In May, he messaged me from a beach, claiming a work trip had been extended, and could I swap weekends. I did, because Jamie's schedule matters more than my record of fairness. I documented without ceremony. Evidence prefers lowercase. By June, Amira had assembled the packet. The centerpiece was a proposed custody agreement that increased my decision-making authority for medical and educational issues, clarified holiday schedules, and narrowed exchange windows to prevent last-minute theater. It also adjusted child support to reflect Dylan's true income, not the lean version he presented at tax time. Discovery will confirm, Amira said. If he refuses to sign, we file. But we always give the chance for an adult choice. We waited for a moment that would be clean. Not a hospital hallway, not a parking lot after a tantrum, not a doorstep with groceries melting. A birthday is public, Amira counseled, but it is also a day framed by love. If he chooses performance, we offer substance. You will say little. The paper will say enough. In the weeks before Jamie's party, I read the agreement at night while the house settled into its creaks. I traced the lines with my finger as if they were geography and I was the mapmaker who finally drew the coast as it is. My ally and my anchor sat side by side, the lawyer who spoke in paragraphs that held, and my sister who held the ladder as I hung flags between the maple and the porch. You're not taking anything from him, my sister said. You're giving Jamie a floor that does not move. The proof object lay folded in my pocket now, warm against my palm. I could feel the notary seal through the paper, round and stern. I did not want a scene. I wanted a signature. I wanted a life where birthdays did not become stages, where joy did not require negotiation. The resolve settled inside me like a room finally furnished with the right chair, the right light. The moment arrived on a wind that smelled like frosting and cut grass. Dylan lifted the drone box and shook it like a maraca. He had gathered the looser parents near the gift table and made the kind of promises that end with a shrug. We'll shoot every Saturday, he said. We'll go viral. He looked at me across the table, eyes bright with a dare he had mistaken for charm. I moved through the small crowd with a plate of cupcakes, collecting empties, asking if anyone wanted coffee. When the circle thinned and people turned toward the kids on the lawn, I set the plate down and stood a foot from Dylan. I did not lower my voice. I did not raise it either. "Dylan," I said. "I have something for you." He tilted his head. "If it's a thank you," he said, "you're welcome." He reached for a napkin, as if the right prop could keep the scene on his script. Riley touched his elbow, sensing weather. I reached into my pocket, unfolded the paper, and placed it on the table between the napkins and the serving tongs. The pages spread like calm water. The notary's seal caught the light. "This is the proposed custody agreement," I said. "It reflects the schedule we have been keeping, clarifies decision-making, and adjusts support based on verified income." I slid a capped pen across the table, slow as a tide. "Please read. If you agree, sign. If you do not, my attorney will file on Monday." For a moment the afternoon went very still. Even the bubble machine seemed to pause, bubbles hanging like punctuation. Dylan laughed once, short and sharp, then looked around for laughter to join his. None arrived. People remained kind in the way good people do when conflict enters a backyard. They turned their attention to the children and pretended not to listen. "What is this?" he said, not a question, more a choreography of disbelief. He glanced at Riley, who pressed her lips together as if she had never learned this step. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You do this at our son's party." "You did," I said, and my tone surprised me with its mercy. "You brought a stage. I'm providing a script that lasts longer than a video." I kept my hands on the table, steady as furniture. "This is not punishment. This is clarity." His jaw tightened. The pilot light of anger flickered in his eyes. He had counted on me to be the nervous mother, the one who blinks first when volume rises. He had forgotten the months I learned the manual. "I won't sign anything without my lawyer," he said. "That is your choice," I said. "You can take it with you. You can have your lawyer call Amira. The filing is ready, with documentation. The schedule is already ours, written across calendars and school forms. The paper simply follows our life with the truth." He slid the top page back, scanning, searching for a lever he could pull. "You're adjusting support," he said, the word sour in his mouth, as if support were a favor, not a fact. "You have no idea what my income is." "We do," I said. "Discovery will confirm what public posts already suggest. You are proud of what you buy, Dylan. The court recognizes pride when it comes with receipts." A small voice reached us, clear and ordinary. "Mom, can I have another cupcake?" Jamie stood at my side, helmet still on, like a knight in training. Riley reached for the knife, then thought better of carving a second cake and set it down. "Yes," I said to Jamie. "The blue one." He walked away with careful steps, taking small bites so the icing would last. Dylan exhaled through his nose, a bull who remembered the rail. He placed his hand on the paper as if pressure could smudge the print. "You're cold," he said, which has always been the name some men give to women who refuse to melt. "I am clear," I answered. The words did not rise, they settled. Jamie needs a father who shows up on time and helps pay for the life he enjoys. He needs a schedule that does not change because the ocean posted a sunset you want to chase. Riley shifted her weight, bracelets quiet now. "Maybe you should read it," she said to him, almost tender, almost practical. She was not my ally. She was the weather changing. Dylan picked up the papers. For a minute he pretended to skim. He did not sign. He returned the pen like a man returning a favor he had not asked for. "My lawyer will be in touch," he said. "I hope so," I said. Monday is soon. The bubble machine restarted with a soft chuff, sending spheres into sunlight that broke them gently. Jamie laughed, chasing one that outlived the others by a second. That was how the scene ended, without shouting, without a curtain. Justice stood on the table, heavier than the cake, quiet as a sealed envelope. Monday arrived the way it always does, without asking permission. At 9:12 a.m., Amira forwarded an email from Dylan's counsel. Received, it said, with the formality of a tone meant to conceal hurry. Client reviewing. By noon, I had returned to work, the kind that happens in the gaps between schools and dinners, a patchwork that pays in increments and gratitude. I recorded a voiceover for a nonprofit, edited a deck for a friend's small bakery, and answered 2 emails about a newsletter no one claims but many read. Life kept its choreography, measured by mugs and word counts. At 3:46 p.m., a second email arrived. Proposed revisions attached, it read, and I braced. The edits were not cruel, they were predictable. He wanted more holidays, looser exchange windows, language that left room for the accidents he calls spontaneous opportunities. Amira's reply was patient and precise. She deleted the vagueness, restored specificity, added an addendum about financial disclosures. He can have Thanksgiving in odd years, she said to me on the phone, but not the power to turn Wednesdays into gambles. By Thursday, we had an agreement 90% the same. The remaining 10% was the part most people miss, the pressure points where a life breathes or wheezes. We hold, Amira said. Quietly. We did. On Friday, Dylan signed. The signature looked like a stylish exit, all flourish, little legibility. I signed after him, my handwriting small and neat. The notary pressed the seal, and the room filled with the old smell of ink and rubber, a scent that always feels like decisions maturing into facts. The weekend unfolded with a new steadiness. Jamie and I cleaned the garage in the morning, a choreography of small tasks he turned into adventures. We found a marble under a rake, a matchbox car between boxes, and a photo from the first apartment where the blinds stuck and the radiator hissed like an old cat. In the afternoon we rode our bikes along the river trail, slow enough to point at egrets in the shallows. When we got home, I watered the fern I almost killed last winter and watched it revive under the stream, greens deepening like a solved chord. Dylan arrived for pickup on time. He stood on the porch, hands in pockets, posture a degree less theatrical. Riley waited in the car, sunglasses on, a paper bag of snacks visible beside her knee. He looked at me and then past me, into the house we had once tried to share. He did not perform. He held the handle of Jamie's overnight bag while I checked the inhaler and the toothpaste, the book he wanted to finish, the sweater he always forgets. Back by 6 on Sunday, I said. He nodded. 6, he repeated. It was not a promise carved into a mountain, but it was an echo that remembered itself. After they left, the house held a soft quiet, not the tense version, the breathable one. I brewed tea and stood at the kitchen sink, hands around the mug, the heat a gentle argument against old cold. Outside, the maple leaves moved like a slow audience. I thought of the party, the cake that looked like speed, the way the pen clicked in my hand. I thought of the children screaming joy over bubbles, the fuss that rose and then disappeared like sugar melting. I thought of how justice often looks like paperwork and patience, not triumph in a stadium. In the evening, my sister came over with takeout and a movie that had no villains, only weather and farms and a dog that gets found in the last 10 minutes. We talked about nothing urgent, and everything important orbited the conversation anyway. How do you feel? She asked. Unstaged, I said. The word fit. I felt like a room with furniture that finally made sense, light falling where it should. The future did not glitter. It steadied. I could see the school year ahead, the dental appointments, the Saturdays at the park, the shared custody woven through it all like blue thread that holds the hem. Sunday at 5:56 p.m., Dylan's car turned the corner. Jamie hopped out before the engine stopped, backpack thumping his small back, grin unbuttoned. "We made pancakes," he said, rushing the sentence. "Dad burned the first two, but then we got good." Dylan lifted a hand in a half wave, and I raised mine in return. The clock struck 6 while Jamie described the tallish stack. "Time is a boundary and a kindness," it held. That night, after Jamie's shower, he curled into my side with damp hair and the clean smell of soap. "My birthday was good," he said. "Can we do bubbles again next weekend?" I kissed the crown of his head. "We can," I said. "We will." The house breathed. Morning light found us on Monday with cereal and math worksheets. I packed lunch and wrote a note on the napkin in blue ink. Outside, the maple continued its slow green work. Inside, the custody agreement sat in the file drawer, a quiet anchor with a round seal and edges that do not shout. It is boring, and it is beautiful. If anyone ever asks what revenge looked like to me, I will not speak about spectacle. I will say it looked like steadiness, like a pen passed across a table, like a child buckling his helmet before a brief ride, like a father returning at 6 because the paper says 6 and the heart finally remembers why. I will say it looked like a mother choosing clarity over applause and finding peace in the simple weight of things that last. If this story touched you, share your thoughts below. And subscribe for more stories of quiet revenge.